Yo, what is up guys? It's Pedro here, and in today's video I'll be talking about something that Dan Quinn said before the Washington Commanders versus Miami Dolphins joint practice that said a lot about where Jahan Dotson stands in the wide receiver room right now. We'll talk about who's going to be the wide receiver 2. Will it be Jahan, Diami, Zacchaeus, maybe Luke McCaffrey? Who knows? Also, check out BetUS. They're sponsoring today's video. We'll talk about them in the middle of the video. And if you guys are new, make sure to subscribe, hit that like button, and that notification bell as well. All those things help out a ton. And comment down below who you think will be wide receiver number 2. I still think it's going to be Jahan Dotson, but hey, maybe you think it's Diami, maybe you think it's Zacchaeus, who knows. Let's get right into it though. So these were comments made by Dan Quinn right before the joint practice against the Miami Dolphins, and I was going to maybe make a video about it yesterday, but decided to do the recap of joint practice, which went well for the Commanders, and I was like, okay, I'll just make this video tomorrow. And this is what Dan Quinn said. He said they're in the middle of the search for wide receiver 2. A lot of players in the mix. He mentioned the good camp Zacchaeus has had. And he mentioned in the full quote, he talked about different guys that are competing for the spot. He said Zacchaeus. That was one of the first names he mentioned. He mentioned Diami Brown. He mentioned Luke McCaffrey. And then he did say Jahan Dotson at the end there. But that is telling. That really is telling for the Washington, or for Jahan Dotson. I mean, to have a guy like Zacchaeus who at best is a wide receiver 3. On most teams he's not starting. Let's keep it real. On most teams he's not starting, and to have him competing with your guy that you draft, it wasn't Dan Quinn, but the Commanders drafted him in the first round in 2022. It's just not a good look for Jahan, but it's still very early. Let's see what Jahan actually ends up doing once the game starts, once he's actually in Cliff Kingsbury's offense. Let's see what happens. Right now, it's not looking amazing. And now the media, the national media, is starting to get wind of this, Jahan Dotson stuff. Greg Rosenthal, who's a big NFL reporter, national guy, 250K followers on Twitter, not calling it X. The Commanders, I still think Twitter is a way better name, but he said the more Commanders coaches talk, the more I wonder if Jahan Dotson's on their Week 1 roster. I would be surprised if he's not. He's definitely not going to get cut. Maybe he gets traded, but I really think they want to see what he can do in this offense. And here's the thing: you trade Jahan Dotson, your receiver room is already not amazing. You trade Jahan Dotson, you really don't have a good receiver room at all. So unless they're doing a Jahan for Ayuk, I mean, obviously they would have to give up more than just Jahan, and I don't think that even makes a lot of sense. Unless they're doing that or they're getting a receiver back in a trade, it just doesn't make sense to trade Jahan Dotson at all. Let's see what he does this year, and after the season, you can decide, okay, do we want to trade him? Maybe he has a great year. Do we want to extend him? Or do we want to just keep him? Maybe he's a wide receiver 3 and nothing more. Maybe he's a wide receiver 2. But before the season or before the offseason started, I think everyone, national media, but also just Commanders fans in general, were like, Jahan's a lock to be wide receiver 2, and a lot of people had high expectations for him. And just hasn't had a great camp for the Washington Commanders. He really hasn't. Let me go ahead and search up a John Keim tweet. He just hasn't had a good camp. I mean, it's not like he's had an awful camp, but he hasn't balled out. He has not balled out for the Washington Commanders. And you would like to at least hear his name a few times a day, and we're not really hearing that. We're hearing Terry McLaurin's name. We're hearing, Bryson Tremaine's name, even Zacchaeus, but we're just not hearing Jahan's name that much. John Keim said Dotson has not emerged. Zacchaeus has been very consistent all of summer. And what I remember from what I saw at the preseason game, Zacchaeus, he had a nice catch. It got called back because of a penalty, but it didn't have anything to do with him, if I remember correctly. He also had a really nice 19-yard return. Looked explosive there. Did bobble the ball a little bit, but I love the return, and I would love to see him as a returner this year. He's making the roster. He's basically a lock to make the roster. But the fact that Dan Quinn said they're in the middle of a search for wide receiver 2, like if Jahan was really balling out, he wouldn't have said that. He's saying that, I think, maybe lighting a fire under Jahan a little bit, getting him a little bit motivated, and maybe Jahan's going to, respond well to that. Maybe not. I don't know, but something has to change. We can't have Jahan Dotson have the type of season he had last year where it was 500-ish yards and a few touchdowns, and not all of it was on him, for sure. Quarterback wasn't great. At times, quarterback was good in the first half, I thought. But the scheme, the play calling wasn't good, especially for Jahan. He was running way shorter routes and fewer opportunities for yards after catch. But also, he was dropping passes he should not have dropped. But real quick, a word from today's sponsor. A huge shout out to BetUS for sponsoring today's video. Use that first link in the description. You get a 125% sign up bonus, up to $2,000 for your first 3 deposits. We'll look over some bets, props they have right now. So Jaden Daniels, 24 to 2025 regular season passing touchdowns, over 17.5. That's his line. So he just has to get over a little bit over 1 a game, and he hits over the season. So if you think he's going to be healthy and have a solid season, I think that's a pretty solid. I think he's going to hit over 17. That's just me. And then you got Brian Robinson. You got over 275 or over under 275 receiving yards. Not completely sure on that because Eckler is going to be, definitely more involved in the passing game than I think Gibson was last year. And then 4.5 rushing touchdowns. I would go over on that. But you got some lines there. They got Terry McLaurin. They got other players as well. There's Jaden Daniels one. Little shocking. But he's also probably going to get a lot of rushing touchdowns as well to get that, if they have a prop with rushing and passing, it's going to be higher than 17.5. But yeah, make sure you guys check him out. Link in the description. And as usual, bet responsibly. All right, and we're back. And I just wanted to go over the full quote for you guys. So this is the clip. I'm not going to play the full clip, but this was before the joint practice. And he just basically said these are the guys that are competing for the number 2 spot. I talked about it earlier. I highly, highly doubt Luke McCaffrey really is in the mix, but I think he's just trying to hype up their rookie. Just from what we're seeing, he really hasn't gotten those reps with the 2s. He's more, or as a number 2 receiver, he's more with the 3s and the second and third team than he is with the first team. So number 2 receiver, that's a little bit of a stretch for me. I really think it is a 3-way competition between Diami, Jahan, and Zacchaeus. At the end of the day, though, I would be pretty surprised if it isn't Jahan. He is your number 2 receiver, I think, heading into the season. He's very talented, and I haven't always been super high on him, but the talent is there, and I'm not totally giving up on that yet. And I think Dan Quinn knows how to read his players, and he knows how to motivate them. I'm hoping. I don't know yet, but that's what I think. And doing this might light a fire under Jahan Dotson and tell him, hey, he needs to step up because what he's done so far in training camp, it's not been enough. And again, some players are better in game than they are in practices, and that could be the case with Jahan Dotson in this particular offense. Because before we did hear good things about Jahan in practice, like that his rookie year, man, we were hearing every day he's making a big play. Oh, he's better than Terry. Some players were saying that's what the reports were or whatever, and I was always like, that is BS until we see it on the field. Let's slow a roll a little bit. But with Jahan, maybe in this offense, he needs to be he'll be better in game because it's more yards after catch based. But I was seeing some other stuff on Twitter where people are saying Cliff likes a little bit bigger receiver for his offense. Maybe that can block. Maybe that's true. And yeah, Jahan's not the best blocker, but you got Terry who can block. Diami isn't afraid to block, and then Luke McCaffrey actually is a solid blocker as well. Some people are talking about this where Jahan was playing with in the second quarter of the first preseason game with some 2s and 3s. Not a great look, but they're just getting all those receivers in. Let's see what happens this week. Against the Miami Dolphins. And then this is what Jahan said, and I thought this was a pretty good answer when asked about being right in the middle of its search for number 2. DQ didn't draft me, said Jahan. The number 16 overall pick in 2022. Each and every year in your profession, you got to prove yourself. You got to prove what you're worth and what you're capable of doing. That's what I'm trying to do. I think that's a good approach to have. Don't create any headlines like this. Tweet didn't go viral. If he would have said a certain thing, it would have been a big deal. He could have easily done that. and the right way to go about things. And let's see, again, do not write him off until he doesn't produce, because he does have the talent. He showed it in his rookie year, and at times last year, not really, but at times. So let's see what he does this year. Still excited about him, just maybe not that number one potential. I would be very, very happy if he's a good number two. And then you can still add to the receiver room next year. But yeah, that's it for today's video. Hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe if you guys are new. Make sure you guys check out BetUS. Link in the description. Just use my link right there, and you will go to the BetUS site and get those great deals. And if you stayed till the end, go ahead and comment down below. Let's do, I'm trying to think of another. Let's go. Sorry guys, I'm blanking. We'll go Josh Norman. But yeah, thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoy, and peace.